Let's look at then what's going on in the American right. I think Nick Fuentes is a thing in itself, and I'll come back to that. But what do you make of this division, particularly, I guess, the big names are Tucker Carlson, and only last night, I think, Megyn Kelly was baiting Dave Rubin on their position. And maybe you could explain this to listeners who don't fully understand. What's your interpretation, Emily, of what's going on?
Well, I'm of the opinion that I think a lot of these people, like Megyn Kelly, I don't believe they're anti-Semitic, but you see time and time again when they've been criticized that they claim other people are accusing them of anti-Semitism. I don't know anyone, actually, that has called Megyn Kelly an anti-Semite, yet she continues to repeat this over and over again. I think what's happening is populism. I think that this is about clicks. It's about attention. It's about how much money can be made. A lot of that is fueled by the way social media platforms work and the algorithms. And I don't even know, I wouldn't even get into who their sponsors are in the case of Megyn Kelly, at least. But in terms of staying relevant in the conversation, yeah, they see the direction the wind is blowing and they're trying to go that direction. And that actually is consistent with Megyn Kelly's professional history. Tucker Carlson, I think, is perhaps a different issue. We don't really know that he's receiving direct funding from Qatar, as some have alleged, but I do think it would be very difficult to argue that Tucker Carlson is actually still a conservative, given some of the things that he's been advocating for the last year or so. His statements about Maduro and Venezuela, his shilling for Putin.
What did he say for Maduro?
He said that he is he's not that bad because he's socially conservative. He's against abortion and he's against trans people. Right, yeah. As if, it's not that bad. And Maduro has absolutely decimated Venezuela. Yeah. He has destroyed that country. The people are fleeing in droves because they don't want to live under socialism. And so for him to hone in on one specific thing and emphasize that as if that is an acceptable thing because, well, look, he's not that bad. He's socially conservative. I mean, how can you criticize him? It's missing the point entirely. And Tucker Carlson knows that. He's trying to play a game. Actually, Ben Shapiro put it very well where he said he's laundering bad ideas, ideologically laundering bad ideas. And that's exactly what we've seen across the board, whether it's Russia or China or Sharia law, his comments mocking Sharia law most recently. This is disgraceful.
Wait, what did he say? What did Tucker say about Sharia law?
He had a guest on where he was sarcastically joking about how, well, don't you know Sharia law is the biggest problem? And then he commented about how, no one's going to steal my cars. At least under Sharia, no one's going to steal my car and no one's going to do whatever else would actually be a side benefit of Sharia law that should exist in any system of law, not specific to Sharia law. And it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing that he did with Maduro. He's focusing on some minute detail that doesn't really have anything to do with the problem of Sharia law and minimizing the massive problem that impacts millions of people who live under systems like this and the human rights abuses that exist across the board anywhere and everywhere that Sharia law is and has existed across time.
So it seems to me that on the one hand, I think you're right that there's a soap opera dynamic to what's going on for clicks. And this is all notably almost entirely commentators rather than actual politicians, although now it's getting to that level. But and that's actually for a reason I haven't really got into it too much because it doesn't seem to me to be that important. But I think I might have been wrong because I think all of these people, whether it's Megyn Kelly or Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, actually do represent strains of American thought. Now, it's also probably true that the likes of Candace Owens or Nick Fuentes, maybe even Tucker, have huge followings in Iraq or in parts of the Arab world where those ideas are really aligned, particularly if you listen to Fuentes or Candace on their take on the Jews. That is, blood libel that Candace Owens she's been doing medieval blood libel. I mean, that's popular in the Muslim world. I've heard it in the Muslim world from Muslims themselves. So I can see why it would be popular there. But I do think part of it is always resonating with or representing strains of American thought, which is I'm paying more attention to it. But
they're tapping into anger. They're tapping into anger in the United States from, certain segments. And they're also tapping into controversy related to the Israel Hamas war, as you mentioned at the beginning. And I think that the obsessive focus that we see on media and social media, a lot of it is artificially inflated, especially on social media. And the lack of focus on every other conflict in the world is the problem. I mean, it is at its core, it's rooted in anti-Semitism. It's okay to have conversations about aid to Israel. It's okay to have criticisms of the state of Israel. But when you're focusing on the Israel-Hamas war obsessively and completely ignoring the fact that tens of thousands of Christians, for example, have been killed in Nigeria, or what's happening in Sudan, or any of the other conflicts that exist around the world, there is a problem. And both the media and social media are responsible, at least in part, for that. And so the podcasters and the right and the left, frankly, follow that narrative because they think that's the biggest issue. And that in and of itself is a mistake. It's not the biggest issue. Another example of that is the obsession with AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, which is an American organization exclusively funded by Americans. They are not allowed to accept money from, certainly not from foreign governments, even from foreign nationals. They're not allowed to accept money. They are routinely investigated because they're constantly being reported for things. They can't get away with anything, and yet they continue to be portrayed as the Israel lobby, despite the fact that what they advocate, I think for many Israelis, they might not even agree that it's beneficial. Certainly right now, there's a whole segment of the Israeli population that isn't very happy about the strings tying Israeli decisions to the United States. That's what AIPAC represents. That's what they promote, the U.S.-Israel relationship, what is jointly beneficial for both countries, not what the Israeli government says. And that seems to be completely lost and sometimes intentionally misrepresented by people. And then that lie gets repeated ad nauseum. And that's what we see happening.
Thanks for watching this clip from The Winston Marshall Show. You can click here to watch the full episode. And for more clips like this one, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, be well.